Okay, good evening, everyone. Um, Please, if you can, I would really prefer if we have our video cameras on so that we can be more interactive. Okay, so I would start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Wahako Sochku Anastasia, and this is week 4 of the JIIPCC mentorship and the JIIPC mentorship program. And the topic we are taking today is data breach management. So from what I'm seeing, we are just 10 here right now. I'm not sure if there are more people or if there are others that are supposed to join or not. I'm not sure about that. But I think we should, just for the sake of that, I think we should wait for a few minutes if other people will still join. And after a few minutes, we'll continue with the session. Please, thank you so much for your patience. Okay, since we've given the other people a few minutes before they can start, then I would like to continue. Like I said before, I've already introduced myself. My name is Wahako Sochiku, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. Today, our topic for today is data breach management. And luckily, one of the mentors that is taking us today, 5 mentors are taking us today, and one of the mentors that are taking us today is already here in the call. So, with that, we could all start. So, first of all, I would like to mention or give a brief discussion about the mentors that will be speaking to us today. Okay, our first mentor for today is Segun Ebenezer. I'm so sorry if I did not pronounce his name well, but Mr. Segun Ebenezer. Mr. Segun Ebenezer is an award-winning cybersecurity. His work in risk assessment, third-party risk management, and policy development. He is a published author, and I would like us to screen. Okay, so I'll continue, or I'll start from where I stopped. So what I was saying, one of our mentors, Mr. Segun Ebenezer. Mr. Segun is an award-winning cybersecurity practitioner work in risk assessment, that third-party risk management, and policy development. He is a published author, and he is celebrated for his cybersecurity career development books. Also, he holds prestigious certifications such as CompTIA Security, ISC2, CC, CCSA, and Cisco Cyber Ops Associate, reflecting his ongoing dedication to professional development. From what we've seen in his profile, we can see that this man is a man of so many works, and he's one of the mentors that will be taking us on today. Moving on to the next mentor that will be taking us for today, we have Mr. Solomon Okadere. Mr. Solomon Okedara. Sorry again for the mispronunciation. Mr. Solomon Okedara is a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. He is a practicing legal practitioner and researcher, and outstanding expertise in human rights, with a special bias for digital rights, including data protection and privacy, digital identity, online expression, intellectual property, e-commerce, tech and corporate transactions, and also artificial intelligence. He is a strategic litigation lawyer with a robust interest and proven expertise in freedom of expression and digital rights litigation. He has litigated on digital rights and freedom of expression subjects in courts across Nigeria, up to the Supreme Court, and he has also conducted cases at the ECOWAS. I'm so sorry, but the screen seems to have switched off. However, what I was saying before, this mentor, the mentor I just mentioned now, Mr. Okadere, is a man, he's a barrister of Nigeria. He has engaged in a lot of cases in relation to data privacy management and other sectors. I would like to still wait for the slides to come up. Okay, wonderful. So he currently serves as a lead of New York for the Ivy League School's Global Freedom of Expression Project, where he analyzes judgments bordering on freedom of expression subjects covering over 120 jurisdictions. Moving on to the next mentor. Moving on to the next mentor, we have Mr. Emmanuel Ewere. Mr. Emmanuel Ewere is an accomplished information technology law specialist with a wealth of experience and clients and a lot of guiding clients through the intricate limits in the field. He has been a trusted advisor on including data privacy, cybersecurity, intellectual property, and e-commerce. Mr. Emmanuel's career has been marked by significant accomplishments.
Sorry about my screen. Sorry, I'll keep sharing. Sorry about that.
Okay, there's no problem. Okay, continuing from where I stopped, Mr. Iman's career has been marked by significant accomplishments. He has held many key roles in various organizations. First, as a business developer at Floorwood LLC in United Arab Emirates. And also, he has held on client matters on various issues such as data privacy. Mr. Emmanuel Ewere is not just a legal expert, but also a tech-savvy professional. His technical skills include proficiency in privacy systems and also processes. He excels in risk management and compliance, crucial elements in the dynamic world of IT law. And also, his adaptations in contract drafting and negotiation with a solid group of cloud computing and blockchain makes him a well-rounded specialist in the field. Moving on to our next mentor for today, the mentor that I'm taking us for today, we have Miss Jadesola Ehsan. Miss Jadesola Ehsan is a legal practitioner with about 3 years experience in corporate and commercial law, compliance, commercial litigation, corporate governance, policy review, data protection, and legal research. She is well versed in negotiation, community liaison, deputy resolution, and crisis management. She is also a corporate governance and compliance professional in the financial sector. And moving on to the last and final mentor we have for today, we have Mr. Matthew Taisi. Mr. Matthew Taisi is a qualified lawyer with over 10 years experience working in corporate legal teams as a privacy and data protection specialist. He holds an LLM in computer and communications law, and a fellow of information privacy. He is a highly motivated person. He uses an innovative approach when it comes to youth mentorship and often thinks outside the box as required. Okay, so if you people, or if all of you carefully follow the mentee or the mentor's descriptions, you can see that right now there are a bunch of qualified people here today to discuss on the topic we have, which is data breach management. They are all qualified for what they have to do today, and I'm really happy and glad that they're here today to give us the discussion, to share with us the knowledge that they have today. So moving on to what we have next, there are two groups from the mentees that will be presenting today, Group 1 and Group 2. And I would like to call on Group 1 to prepare their presentation, or to start or to give us their presentation. And also, I'll also like to give a reminder that for each group has a total of 7 minutes for their presentation. So I would like to call on Group 1 to start and to give us their presentation that they have for today. Please, Group 1 members, keep in mind that you have exactly 7 minutes for your presentation. Thank you so much. We are waiting for you, Group 1 members.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Chinoye from Group 1. Please, I just need a few moments to share my screen. Or can you already see it? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. I can see your
Hold on.
screen, but I'm just seeing you, but I can see it.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can we all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All
We
right.
can
My name is
hear
Chinonye.
you perfectly.
All right then. My name is Chinonye Ngwafulu. I'm representing Group One, and today we'll be discussing data breach management. This is a rather crucial part of data protection, and I say this because I believe, or from my understanding of it, it is a more practical aspect of data protection as a practice. So it goes from the legal framework and the more academic discourse to the actual ways these data protection requirements can be implemented or achieved. So in our discussion today, we'll be looking at data breach management from four subtopics. First is data breach trends and patterns, risk assessment and prevention strategies, data breach impact analysis, then detection technologies and techniques. So first of all, analyzing the historical history of data breaches. So data and the breach of data, personal data, isn't something that just started with the internet or with the internet being so easily accessible, right? So anywhere there is personal data, there is bound to be the unauthorized access of it. Anywhere there is data, there will be people who will try to get access to it without authorization, basically. So it's not something that just existed because of the internet. It existed long before. But then the increase of data breaches became more frequent in the 1980s and the 1990s and early 2000s. Then the public awareness of potential for data breaches began to rise. Some notable historical data breaches include the Yahoo incident in 2013 and 2014. So this was a very good example of a lack of good data protection systems. So in 2013, there was a breach in the Yahoo's system and Yahoo's data, the database of the people who used it for their emails, right? But they didn't even realize this until 2016 when they were investigating another data breach incident. So initially they had thought that there was a breach affecting about 1 billion clients, but upon further investigation, it actually affected 3 billion people. And it's so important to know that because of the way their systems were lacking, first of all, they didn't even know about it until 3 years later, and then what they even knew about it was first of all wrong, and they had to keep learning about it before they could get the actual information. So it shows the importance of having good systems for data breach management. Secondly, we move on to common attack vectors. So attack vectors, the attack vectors are basically ways in which data breach occurs. So the ways in which our data is exploited by attackers to gain unauthorized access to computer systems or networks. Then it can be vulnerability in software, weakness in security protocols, or even human error. So to explain them, the first is social engineering. So social engineering basically is a way in which it's the art with which we are manipulated or influenced, like a data subject is manipulated or influenced in order by people who want to gain control into your systems or get you to divulge important or confidential information about yourself. And a way this can be done, or a method social engineering takes, can be phishing. Phishing is where the potential hackers pose as legitimate or authentic people or businesses, either by in your emails generally by bulk emails, and they pose as legit organizations or people to try and not coerce, but try to influence you based on the things they are saying to get you to feel comfortable enough or to deceive you into divulging important information about yourself. Now, a more specialized form of this is spear phishing, which is more targeted. So here there is a target, and they go into more investigation or sorry research, right, to learn more about the target and be able to know the kind of things to say or to present to that person through their emails or other channels to influence them into divulging those information. Another way that they can take is pretext. So in pretexting, basically, they first of all give you a made up scenario with some information that's already real to kind of make you feel relaxed enough to give more information. An example that all of us most of us should be familiar with is these WhatsApp scammers or even bank scammers. Sometimes they call you, like this has happened with my father. I was there when it even happened. Someone called him, he had just left the bank, And then someone called him and was like, "Oh, are you Mr. So and so? We are trying to do something to your account. We want to get some information from you. Can you just confirm your date of birth is this and this?" And he was like, "Oh, yes, it is. All right, correct. So we got that right. So can you give us your password to your account and so on?" Just they ask for more information, basically. That's an example of pretexting. They've made up a scenario, they've given you some information that seems correct, and they're trying to coerce you, to influence you into giving them more information. Now, compromised credentials, these attacks happen generally where some passwords or where you use the same password for multiple accounts. Like, for instance, I used to say before that if you hack into one of my accounts, like just any one of my social media accounts, you've hacked into my whole life because I used the same password for every single thing until I learned more about data protection and cybersecurity. So instances where you're using one password for multiple accounts can lead to compromised credentials. The same can apply to weak passwords. And then malware is basically malicious software. These are softwares that have malicious intent, basically. They come in and they hijack your systems, they hijack your softwares, and then they are able to get access to your data without authorization. Vulnerabilities include weaknesses in systems, weaknesses in the company where you work for. Maybe there is someone or some people who aren't as data protection conscious. They pose a vulnerability for your organization. Misconfiguration, if your apps or your software aren't properly configured, it could lead to lapses of vulnerabilities. So ransomware and insider threats as well. Then the next stage is targeted industries for data breach. So data breach is something that, like we said, applies to a lot of anywhere there is data, there will be the potential threat of data breaches. However, there are some industries and some industries who are more prone to these attacks. And these include finance and banking industry. I mean, you can already guess why. The finance and banking industry deals with our money. So any potential hackers who are interested in hacking into your account or your finances to get access to your bank details and such to clear your account would be it's kind of gives you a reason, or it makes it obvious why this industry will be highly targeted. And yeah, apparently there was a 2023 Verizon report that stated that 34% of the data breaches that happened in the banking industry were due to insider activities. So either intentional insider activities, intentionally getting those data to intentionally breaching those data, or through just human carelessness or human recklessness, but shows you that it's a threat that is quite high. Then the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry is a highly targeted industry. In the healthcare industry, your medical records are there, your insurance records are there, different things that potential hackers would want access to. Same for retail and e-commerce. Government and public sector, certain state-funded hackers they are very, very much interested in the data of the citizens of the country. They are looking for ways to hack into the government records for specific strategic information. An example of that is the 2020 Russian state-sponsored hackers into the US military, the US defense system. Then technology and telecommunications, a common form of data breach here is the identity theft, people who want to hack into your SIM cards, hack into your WhatsApp, hack into your profiles, they hijack your Instagram, and then they take on your personality, and they are trying to get other people to just scam other people, basically. Then the education system, as well as the hospitality and travel industries. So we're going on now to the second part, which is the risk assessment and prevention strategies. So here we're talking about methodologies and tools for assessing risk of data breach. The first one we'll be looking at is methodology for assessing risk of data breaches within an organization. Now, the first one we are talking about, sorry, is the quantitative methodology. So this methodology basically it appoints financial monetary value, right, to the assets of the company or the organization, and it involves detailed data analysis and statistical models to ascertain the potential risks that are involved in the potential risks that will be involved in the breach of this data. And the next one we have is qualitative methodology. This methodology basically provides more narrative insight. It doesn't just rely on the numbers, right? It looks more into getting its information or its data or information through the perception of people, through workshops, opinions of people. And this mainly has to do with when you are assessing things like reputational risk, right? Then the semi-quantitative methodology is a combination of both. Asset-based management assesses the potential risk on each asset, both the like all properties of the organization, the tangible and intangible properties of the organization. It assesses the potential risk of any of these assets being tampered with. Then vulnerability-based assessment tries to look into the weak points of the organization and the potential risk this can pose. Then threat-based assessment looks at the potential threats, like external threats, right, from the external points, potential threats that the organization can face. Then tools for assessing. Sorry, can everyone still hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please
Okay.
continue.
Then next up, tools for assessing risk and risk of data breaches within an organization. The first one is data mapping tool. So this basically is a tool that should assist you in making a map that shows the flow of your data, the flow of the documents, data, how data is collected, how it is stored, how it is processed, just to create like a visualization of where and who you're getting this data from, the categories of the data, the purposes, the retention periods, and just a visualization of everything. So you have it all on, like you can have everything at a place. Then data discovery tools, this classify data and it helps you further classify the data in your databases. Then data protection tools help you implement data protection and data security measures. Things like encryption, things like permission, access controls, those kind of things. Data protection tools help you stay on top of that. Then data impact assessment tools, these help you conduct impact assessment exercises on the impact of your activities, your processing activities, and how they affect the rights of data subjects and people whose data you are basically processing. Right, then data breach notification tools. Now we know that in our laws like GDPR as well, there is the requirement of notifying the data subject in certain instances where there is a data breach. So these kind of tools help you kind of automate that requirement. So once there is a breach, it helps you to notify people who need to be notified and when they need to be notified. And data governance tools are tools that help you stay on top of your data protection activities generally in a company. So data protection isn't something that is one and done. It's a continuous process. Just organization rights generally. Then effective preventive measures to mitigate potential data breaches. So first is to implement strong access control. So implementing strong access controls basically means that not everyone gets to have access to it. It should basically be on a need to know, need to have basis, right? Even in the same organization, I could be working on a particular account or a particular client. I don't need to know, I don't need to have access to what my colleague is working on. There should also be that barrier. So implementing strong access controls makes it more difficult for these data breaches to occur. Then regular security audits and risk assessment. So this presents a more proactive way of analyzing the potential risks that threaten your company or your organization. When you conduct these audits and risk assessments, you're better prepared with the potential risks you can face and how to address them and manage them. The employee
Are you still on?
Oh yes, I am.
Chinenye, Oh, please, if it's possible, can you speed up your presentation? Yeah, your 7 minutes
Okay.
has been up for some time, but can you speed it up, please? Thank you so
So
much.
sorry. All right, then data breach impact analysis. So let's just run through the short-term and long-term impacts of data breaches on organizations. So there are obviously going to be financial implications like fines, loss of income and such, loss of productivity. When they have to cater to these data breaches that occur, it would kind of hinder or inhibit their activity. It would obviously affect their reputation and the trust that the data subjects and clients have in them, massive drop in company stock and the likes. Then detection technologies and techniques. So the first one that we looked at here is intrusion detection system. So these systems basically are systems you have in place that track or um, monitor activities or network traffic in your systems or in your software and your apps, right? And looks out for suspicious behaviors. So when there's a suspicious, maybe multiple login attempts or stuff like that, it creates an alert. It gives you real-time monitoring to allow immediate identification of suspicious activity. Then the next one we looked at is security information and event management. So these kind of tools and these kind of applications um, they create a log, more like a security, they create like a log, gives a more holistic view of the security posture by combining data from diverse sources. So it looks at different things, the network traffic, the firewalls you have in place, the applications, the servers, even the people, as long as there are things in place, these systems help track the information they get from those different systems to create an analysis of um, to create an analysis to help you detect if there's any data breach. And then another one is machine learning of algorithms. This one is a tool. They are tools that basically combine both the sorry. Oh wow, this is basically combines the intrusion detection systems, the security information and event management, and yes, it's another way of detecting data breaches. These are other ones. And okay, yeah, that's our presentation. So basically, in conclusion, data breaches in an organization cannot be data breach management in an organization cannot be overemphasized. It's a more like practical way of addressing data protection. So the data protection laws and legal frameworks have created these laws, right? They've put in place the principles. They've said you are supposed to have this and this. But then as a company, even as a potential hacker, you can say, okay, I should have, you hear phrases like lawful purpose, and you're like, okay, lawful purpose, and then what? Like how, if I decide not to have a lawful purpose, if I decide to not be careful with my third party transfer of data, okay, then what? Like, how would you know? These are the things that will be in place. These are the things that kind of like a metric to show the implementations of these principles, of these things that data protection aims to achieve. And that's our presentation. Hope everyone has learned from it. And if there are any questions, we'll be happy to take them.
Okay, that's very, very, very wonderful. Chinonye, I would really like to congratulate you. You did a very good job on presenting on behalf of Group 1. Not only did you speak properly and converse your points well, you also gave examples and led us through the whole thing in a perfect manner. And that is really something that is not easy. It's not easy to come up here and talk and discuss on a particular topic. However, it's a learning process, and that's why we do it. So I would like to congratulate you and all of Group 1 members for a wonderful and perfect presentation. Moving on, I would like to call on the members of Group 2 to come on also and give their presentation. And I would also like to give a reminder that the presentation is for 7 minutes. 7 minutes because we have a time slated out for this session. If you would try to, oh, I think my mic was muted. Okay. The speaker for Group 2, if you could try to come and give your presentation for 7 minutes, that's the required time, that would be great. So the Group 2 speaker, you can come and give your presentation now. Group 2 members, are you people? Are you all in this call. Please, may the speaker from Group 2 come and give his presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can anyone hear me?
Good afternoon. We can hear you.
Well, good afternoon.
Okay. Good afternoon. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen and your slides.
Okay. So I'll be making the presentation for Group 2. Our topic for this week is data breach management. And for Group 2, we'll be looking at the incident response planning and execution and other subtopics. I'll treat them as I go ahead with this presentation. So what is an incident response plan? What is incident response planning? An incident response plan is a document that outlines the steps that should be taken in the event of data breach or other security incidents in an organization. Okay, so an incident response plan usually contains procedures for detecting, for assessing, and responding to data breach incidents in an organization. Hello, can anyone still hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead with your presentation.
I hear you perfectly.
Okay. So
Go
an
ahead.
incident
I can
response
hear you
plan
perfectly.
it's a document that outlines what an organization should do in case of data breach or a security incident in a security breach incident in the organization. Responding to a data breach in an organization is just like responding to a fire emergency. If there's a fire emergency, the fire service will try to minimize the damage to ensure safety of the persons in the building or the organization which caught fire, and to restore the building back to the position that it was before the fire incident. That's what happens in an incident response plan in data protection. It aims to minimize the impact of that data breach and to protect sensitive information and restore the affected systems back to the secure state that they were before the data breach or the security breach in the organization. So, an incident response plan also establishes the recommended actions and procedures that are needed to do the following. One, recognize and respond to an incident. The incident response plan contains steps that should be taken to recognize and respond to a data breach or security breach in an organization. It also contains procedures for assessing the incident quickly and effectively to notify the appropriate individuals and organizations of the incident. For instance, if it's a personal data breach, in some circumstances, the law states that the data controller or the organization where that data has been breached should communicate such breach to the data subject. Also, the incident response plan should organize a company's response. It should contain a company's response to a data breach issue or a security breach issue in the company, and also escalate the company's response based on the severity of the incident and support the business recovery efforts made in the aftermath of the incident. So there are basically two types of breaches that can occur in a company or in an organization that processes data. First, we have accidental disclosure of data, personal data, and other data. Second, we have malicious attacks. For accidental disclosure, this happens where in a company or an organization that processes data, the personal information of data subjects that are processed in such organization is mistakenly or unconsciously disclosed to the public. This usually happens unintentionally. For instance, the Plateau State Contributory Health Care Management Agency had such experience of data disclosure, where about 75,000 files of personal information of data subjects, the medical records of data subjects of that agency was disclosed to the public. An organization that tracks data breaches discovered that agency's buckets were left in open form without encryption or password. So several information of data subjects of that medical agency were disclosed to the public, like passport photographs, birth certificates, national identity cards, among others. In the case of malicious data attacks or malicious breach of data, it usually happens when a third party, a criminal third party, attacks the system of an organization or places a malware in the system of an organization and causes them to lose or steals data, the personal data and other information from such organization. A good example of this was in 2013. In 2013, Target Corporation, one of the largest retailers in the United States, they suffered a massive data breach that affected about 40 million customer payment cards accounts and the personal information of up to 70 million of their customers. The attacks happened during a very busy holiday in 2013. The hackers, they infiltrated Target's POS systems. They used stolen credentials from a third-party vendor, installed a malware on the POS terminals that captured customers' credit and debit card information and swiped their cards at checkout. The stolen data included names, card numbers, expiration dates, and the CVV codes of those data subjects. So this is a very good example of malicious attack to a company's or an organization's system that breaches the data, the personal data and privacy rights of the data subjects. Okay, there are important steps that should be taken where data breach occurs. For instance, the first is preparation. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, we can
Please
hear you.
continue.
So when data breaches occur, the best incident response plan to ensure data protection would include the following. Number one, preparation. The organization should develop a comprehensive incident response plan that would include roles, duties and responsibilities, communication protocols, and escalating procedures in case of a data breach, and also train their employees and educate them regularly on their responsibilities and what they should do in case of in a situation where data breach occurs. So the next is identification and scoping. An organization should be able to detect and identify the data breach or the security incidents as soon as possible. They should monitor systems and networks for unusual activity and have a clear process for reporting incidents. The third is containment. An organization that has suffered a data breach should isolate the affected systems and data to prevent unauthorized access or disclosure. This may involve disabling user accounts, blocking network traffic, or taking affected systems offline. This would help in preventing the attack to extend to other information in their network that has not been corrupted by the data breach. We also have eradication. Where a data breach occurs, the organization should remove the cause of data breach or the security breach, such as they can do this by patching up vulnerabilities and updating their access controls to make it difficult for the criminal third party to access the information on their systems. These steps, the eradication, may also involve or include recovering and deleting compromised data. For instance, where a system has been breached, maybe using a malware or other forms of system breach. Any data that has been compromised has to be removed to prevent it from further corrupting the other data available on their systems. We also have the recovery plan. Organizations must take steps to restore affected systems and data to normal operation. For instance, where a data breach occurs and the personal information of data subject are deleted from the system, for instance, and the organization has to take steps to restore those information back to what they were before the data breach occurred. Also, documentation. When a data breach occurs, an organization, the affected organization, must ensure that every detail of the process of the breach and their response must be well documented so that they can review it, they can have a post-incident review to identify the root cause of the incident and maybe discover any areas for improvements in the future. And they would need such documentation to update their plan for similar incidents in the future. So the next is best practices for developing and implementing Hello?
Hello?
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you perfectly well.
Go on, please. Can hear you loud and
Okay,
clear.
so the best practices for developing and implementing incident response plan. First, an organization has to form an incident response team and define their responsibilities. We are in the digital age, and data breach can affect any organization. No organization that processes data, personal data, is free from data breach. So an organization has to form an incident response team and give them their responsibilities, what they should do, where data breach occurs, or where they have a security breach. Then have a clear chain of command. In the event of a data breach, to ensure organization and to ensure that to ensure that the incident response plan provided by the company is followed, there should be a clear chain of command. There should be the person that is directing the members of the incident response team on what they should do and how they should go about it
Excuse
to
me.
avoid
Sorry for interrupting, but please, you should start rounding up. Your 7 minutes has already passed. So please start rounding up. Thank you so much.
Okay. So an organization should also test their incident response plan regularly to ensure that where data breach occurs, they can deal with it accordingly. They should also try to update the plan regularly so that it can meet up with what is required at the moment, whether they need to update their, advance their technology and all that. Training should also be conducted for employees so that in case of a data breach, they should know what should be done, and communication strategies has to be put in place in case of a data breach, so that, for instance, where the data subjects who has been affected by the data breach needs to be communicated, there should be strategies to ensure that that is the case. Also, we have the legal regulatory framework governing data breach management. So data protection is an international phenomenon. Every jurisdiction has their data protection laws and what it says should be done if data breach occurs. First, determining whether the organization is acting as a data controller or a processor. The NDPA in section 40 sub 1, the GDPR in 33 sub 2, and the United Kingdom's Data Protection Act in section 67 67 sub 9, all provide that a data processor must always notify the data controller that who engaged them of a data breach as soon as they are aware of its occurrence. The data controller must also be kept abreast of all the updates and the steps that are taken towards remediation, and additional information must also be provided upon the request of the data controller. Notifying supervisory authorities. The NDPA, the GDPR, and the UK Data Protection Act also provides for this. How supervisory authorities should be contacted in case of or should be notified in a scenario of a data breach. And these laws all provide for notification within 72 hours of discovery of the data breach. We also have notifying affected individuals where a data breach has occurred, and it would affect the fundamental human rights of the data subjects. The NDPA, the GDPR, and the United Kingdom's Data Protection Act all provide that the individuals affected should be notified in a clear and comprehensive manner. Also, we also have recording the data breach, the breach in the data breach log or record. All organizations are to maintain a data breach register that contains every scenario where data breach has occurred in the organization and their response to such data breach. Also, move to security awareness and training. We live in a world that is driven by technology, and data breach occurs almost on a daily basis in several organizations around the world. So all organizations must ensure that they always train and educate their employees on cybersecurity and data protection to ensure that they are in the best position, to answer, to address data breaches when it occurs. Also, finally, we have the strategies for post-breach remediation. First is the data restoration. When a data breach has been identified, the extent of the data loss or the compromise should also be identified, and the organization that the data breach has occurred must also prioritize restoring the data that has been affected to the position they were before the data breach. We also have system hardening. After a data breach has occurred, an organization must make sure that they assess their existing IT infrastructure and identify the vulnerabilities that were exploited during the data breach and ensure that they come up with updates and try as much as possible to patch those vulnerabilities. They can do so by implementing multi-factor authentication, which we know as two-factor authentication. Also, we have incident debriefing. An organization must always ensure that they conduct a comprehensive post-incident review to understand the root causes of the data breach in order for them to tackle the data breach. They must understand what occurred, what area of their system were vulnerable. So the incident debriefing comes handy in that respect. Finally, we have lessons learned and continuous improvement. After a data breach has occurred in an organization and the documentation of such data breach has been done, the organization has a duty to study that document and learn from their mistakes or from their vulnerabilities, and also try as much as possible to continue improving their network and their systems. Thank you. That's all.
Okay,
Hello.
thank you so much. Hello?
We can hear you, moderator.
Thank you so much for such a presentation. Okay, thank you so much for what a wonderful presentation. I feel as if you really hit the nail on the head. It was a perfect presentation from your part. You did really well by breaking it down, giving us the various statutes, giving us examples, explaining to us what exactly the incident response plan is, and so many others. And I would love to give you your congratulations and also the entire group members of Group 2. It's not easy. It's not something that anyone can do simply. And you came here and you did a wonderful job at it. Also, I also like to go back and congratulate both you and Group 1 for a job well done. You guys did great today. You guys really talked well. Your slides were presentable, amazing. The designs were great. I really enjoyed that from all of you. And it was a remarkable session. And I would like to thank both Group 1 and Group 2 for that experience. Moving on, I would like to call on the mentors to give their feedback or anything they would like to talk or discuss about, any additional thing, maybe corrections or any other thing they would like to discuss about relating to this topic. And I would also like them to give their individual or personal feedback on say or in relation to this topic. So first off, please, I would like to call Mr. Matthew Taipei to come and discuss and give us his own personal feedback. Please, Mr. Matthew, you can take the. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me? For me, I don't know if it's my network, but there's a bit of a break.
We can hear you, sir.
We can hear you perfectly well, sir.
Okay, lovely. Congrats to both teams. I think those were really, really good presentations. Not that we're competing, but for me, Group 2, you really, really hit the assignment on the head. I understand today's assignment is understanding data breaches and their impact, detection and response, and best practices for data breach management. And the reason I feel as though Group 2's presentation was extremely compelling is because Group 1 really went quite technical within the area of sort of the technical protection of the data. Whereas for me, I was expecting a more holistic sort of covering of the topic. And Group 2 kind of hyper specialized in one aspect of data breaches. So Group 2 for me, that was really good. Group 1, that was really great. But some of those things you needed to explain a bit more or take a much broader approach. So one feedback I would probably give is it would be really good because I understand most of you are students. When you're giving this presentation is to start from sort of the very beginning. And you should probably be talking about what a data breach is as per definition of the law and what personal data is sort of covered within a data breach. And that would have given you some ideas around what it is you could present. So for example, we know a data breach is defined as sort of unauthorized exposure, disclosure, or loss of personal information, right? And so when we're looking at that, some of the things both groups talked about don't apply necessarily to personal information. So allow me to give you a bit of insight there. When we're looking at personal data breaches from an organizational level, you sort of want to broadly define what a data breach response strategy or policy is intended to cover. Because of the nature of personal data and the fact that it's sort of transferred from country to country, and there are very different definitions of what constitutes a data breach or indeed what constitutes personal data. Like in the UK, it has the usual things, your name, your phone number, your IP address, things that could identify you. I think that's pretty much the same in Nigeria. And in California, even things like passwords or financial information like bank account numbers are considered personal identifiable information. So when you find yourself in a situation in the practical sense where you're using a Microsoft or an Azure server, and that personal data is having to pass through California or is being backed up in California, then you have a much wider net as to what is really covering personal data. So for me, breaking it down into those simple steps is generally really helpful, and it kind of guides the procedure. The second thing would probably be, I agree with both teams in sort of what they've brought to the table. When in practice, when you do your certified information privacy manager course, when you get the qualification, one of the things that you're strongly advised to do as far as breach remediation is generally to align strongly with your information security policy or strategy within an organization. So because most of the processing we do of personal data is digital, sometimes we're also tempted to leave out, the physical aspect. So let's say people printing out things, maybe printing out confidential documents and forgetting to remove it from the printer. Maybe somebody leaves their desktop unlocked, for instance, which means somebody can easily walk up, take a snapshot or gain access to their device and then access personal data. So those two aspects would generally be it. As far as a measure that both teams didn't talk about would actually also be around the retention of personal data. That is to say, so I'm just checking the slide now to see in case Group 2 had it in. So it's preparation, identification, access containment, eradication, recovery, and documentation. So that's really good. But one thing that really helps with data breach discovery and remediation would probably be secure destruction and retention policies. So a retention policy is essentially how long, what categories of personal data, how long you're supposed to keep that data, where it's going to be stored, and in what form. And then that covers both the physical and the digital. So if it's printing out documents, secure documents need to be shredded, you need to provide for that, or disposed of in a secure way. Maybe you have a secure document disposal service, as some organizations do. Others would be, you've got a retention policy where the owner of that personal data is supposed to describe how long that information is being kept, whether it needs to be anonymized after a year, why it's being anonymized or deleted, maybe only needed for 2 years because of auditing purposes. Once the auditors have had access to it, they destroy it. So for me, I would just give those really brief comments. Overall, really, really good work done. I can see lots of research sort of went into the presentations, and maybe I'll have an opportunity to speak later, but for now, I'll give the other mentors a chance, just taking a note of the time. So that'll be it for now. Over to you, Dennis. Or Kosiso.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. Thank you for your feedback. I really learned, even though I'm not part of the mentees, but I really learned from what you told them. And I'm so grateful that you are able to give your own point of view and your own opinion about the presentations that they gave today. Thank you so much for that. Moving on, please, Mr. Segun, please can you also share your today and also any additional information you would like to give us or present to us today. Thank you so much.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Matthew, for that comprehensive, your contribution. Group 2 only actually focuses on incident response. Of course, this is one of the major aspects of managing data breach, but that is not the only. That's not the only security measure, right? And to put in place. Incident response majorly talks about the steps, the procedures that you should take after you have, you've detected a breach, right? A data breach or a loss of data, whatever it is, right? But how do you detect? How do you know that a data breach has happened, How do you know that there has been an unauthorized access to your network that actually lead to exfiltration of data, right? Now, it is not a data breach until data is being exfiltrated, right? It can be an hack that doesn't lead to any, I've seen, reports of, incidents, security incidents where the organization claims, okay, there is an hack on our network, but there are no data disclosure, right? So that is not a data breach. That is just a security incident, right? So if there is an exfiltration of data after an hack, we can categorize that into saying, oh, the data has been breached. And then also from both groups, I was expecting that you would give like a categorization of data breaches. Like, okay, what aspect? Is it that the confidentiality of the data was breached, or the integrity of the data was breached, or the availability of the data, right? Is it that there were, disclosure, unauthorized disclosure of data, or the data was tampered with, or the data was not made available to the respective authorized, users, right? I was expecting that categorization just to explain, is it understanding data breaches, just to give like a broad understanding of what data breaches are, right? For group one, good job. Yeah, I know you did not have like enough time to explain a lot of security controls and measures that you listed in your slide. I just want to correct a few things. For example, you mentioned endpoint detection and respect. It's not respect, it's endpoint detection and response. Endpoint detection and response. It focuses on endpoint protection, like your systems, every host on the network, providing detailed visibility and threat protection for specific devices. And I was also expecting that you mention extended detection and response, which is like a broader form of, EDR, right? Also, yeah, I think Mr. Matthew actually made reference to that so tricky that most of the time we don't give attention to, physical data that are stored, information stored, in physical form, right? I could see that those two were not, the two groups didn't capture that aspect of it also, right? Or I didn't capture that aspect also. Information, and this is why organizations have policies like clean decks policy. Mr. Matthew mentioned something like that, where you have to make sure that there are no physical documents containing sensitive data littered on around, maybe in your printer or on your table. You left it there and then you leave, close for the day and all of that. You must have a clean date, right? So that vital sensitive information can be kept away. And also you shred any document that you're not using anymore, and the rest of that. And then be careful of dumpster diving. That is, you have to shred the document and not just squeeze it and throw it into the dustbin, where cyber criminals can actually easily, have access to those dustbins and get some of those information from the physical document. Another thing I noticed was, group two. You mentioned two types of data breaches. You never mentioned their response plans. You said that slide was titled two types of data breaches with their response plan. So I was expecting maybe you want to group the response plan into two to address the two types of data breaches, or are you saying that the incident response plan that you explained is the same response plan that is used to actually address the two data breaches that you mentioned? You can answer that question maybe when I'm done. All right. Also, yes, and I noticed also that there are no so much insight into business continuity plan and disaster recovery plan. These are very, very important because when there is a data breach, right, there is always like an unauthorized access to the network, and sometimes it disrupts, the business operation. So there must be a plan on ground that helps to actually, continue business operation while the incident response is kicked off, while you're trying to contain, while you're trying to eradicate. Your business must not stop functioning. So that's the goal of business continuity plan. So that is also a very good aspect of managing data breaches, right? So that your incident response activities does not actually disturb or distort your business operation, right? Then I think Group 2 mentioned a bit about disaster recovery plan. Yeah, where we talk about backup strategies. I think Mr. Matthew also mentioned something like that. The format in which the data is being backed up, the retention of the data, where is it kept? Where is the data kept? In how many locations? The 3-2-1 backup strategy, all of those are part of the strategies to managing data breaches. So I was expecting that Group 1 and 2 will actually give insight into the communication aspect of data breach management. What channel should you use to communicate to the data subject or the authorities that are supposed to hear about the data breaches? What channel should you use to communicate with them? What relationship should you establish with law enforcement agency? Also, none of the group mentioned the role of forensics investigation when it comes to managing data breach. So all of this, you can go ahead and go and make your investigation on them. All of this together contributes to the management of data breaches, also part of the best practices for data breach management. And I will stop with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Segun, for your feedback. I really do hope that Group 1 and Group 2 took note of all the corrections he made about your presentation. He made a lot of corrections which were quite reasonable and suitable for this session. Okay, moving on, Ms. Jadestola Ethan, please, we would also like to hear your feedback and also additional contributions to this session we had today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening rather. So I apologize, you are all going to have to struggle to hear me. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly well.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try as much as possible to be audible, right? I just closed my book. I had a bit of back and forth with my editor, so accept the voice how you see it. So without reiterating what the other people had said, I'd like to say well done Group 1 and Group 2. I saw a lot of that done. I could see that a lot of work had gone into finding out all the things that they had put. Like without repeating what that was said, but I would love to see most of these things that you had addressed being but more. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So it felt a little abstract to me, maybe because I am on the other in the I don't know how to explain it. I see it on a day-to-day and I know what happens. But I've loved to see like more realistic application of all the things you had said. While I appreciate the fact that you are just how do I explain it now? You probably did this project for academic purposes, but I would have loved to see a more realistic approach. I think if you are taking that approach, no things that the other method that corrected would have come up. You would have realized the need to have touched on those things. But that being said, thank you very much. Hello? And anyone else?
Hello?
Oh,
Yes, I can hear you.
all right, thank you. I'm done.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. We all really appreciate it. Okay, and finally, our last mentor who will be giving us his feedback on what we had today from the two groups. Well, Ewere, please, you have the stand. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. And I would like to commend Group 1 and Group 2. And I'd like to know the presenter. Who is the presenter for Group 1? What's your name? What is the name of the presenter for
Good
Group
evening.
1?
My name is Chinoye.
Okay. Chineye, I would like to commend your presentation when you were actually talking and bringing out facts in and outside the slide. I want to say kudos to you. I will say that you are actually grounded in the technicalities. And this is actually like the part that has some technicalities. And it is very important that you have sound knowledge on data breach management, because you as a professional will be expected to be able to provide perfect solution where there is a breach. And I have a question, first of all, for Group 1. Can everyone in Group 1 unmute their mics? All those in Group 1, unmute your mics. So I can see Chinoye, I can see Olukunle. Who else? Just 2 people in Group 1. Chinoye, Olukunle, Favor, Emanuela. Okay. My first question. Who can be referred to as the steward of data protection implementation and compliance within an organization?
The data protection officer.
Very good. So why is it that nothing? Who answered it? Who answered the question?
Chinoye.
Chinoye, the same Chinoye. Okay, Chinoye, you would answer any question. I want those in your group to participate right now. Very good point for you, Chinoye. Why is it that I didn't see anything about that in your slides? And I would like to draw your attention to the fact that one of the biggest opportunity that is open to you is to play a role of a DPO. And for you to be a DPO, a data protection officer, you must understand what brings about breach, how it can be managed, and the post measures to put in place. Favor, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Tell me 2 roles of a DPO.
Okay, the DPO, first he keeps the data of persons that are connected to the organization. He keeps store of such data, and then he also ensures the protection of the data.
Nice one. Emanuela, can you give us 2 as well?
Yes, sir. The DPO conducts like routine security checks to ensure that the organization's data is still secure. and the DPO, sorry, advises the organization on like new methods, new updates, things they can do to better improve the security of the data within their organization.
Very good. Olukunle, can you give us two as well?
Okay, I think one of the duties of a DPO in an organization is to make sure that data breaches do not occur, and secondly, to make sure that if indeed occurs, his duty is to make sure that the breaches are well managed, so as not to disrupt the continuation of the business of the organization.
Okay, that's a fair try. And I want this to be like the start point, because if you're to attend an interview today as for a position of a DPO, that will be like the first question you'll be asked. So what can you offer? What can you do? So I want you to have this in mind, that first of all, as a DPO, you have an oversight, compliance oversight responsibility. When I say compliance oversight, when it comes to the applicable laws like the NDPR, like the Data Protection Act, it is your responsibility to ensure that there's the adherence to the implementation of these legislations. And also, you're supposed to assist your organization to adopt the technicalities, the technical and organizational measures for effective compliance. Next is risk assessment. When you started this whole journey on privacy and data protection, let me just break it down like I'm actually talking to a 5-year-old. I want to believe that you got the understanding that the role of a controller includes collection of data, storage of the data, usage of the data, security of the data. So, in the storage of the data, in the usage of the data, in the collection of the data, what are those risks? What are those possible risks that can come up? So the DPO is supposed to consider the risks associated with all the processes involved in the organization. Then he's supposed to collaborate with a team. I like the fact that both groups actually mentioned the response team. Very important. Every organization must have a response team, and that team must have a chain of communication. And that team must report at every given time to a DPO. So that DPO must be there as part of that chain of communication to ensure that there's proper compliance. Then lastly, I will just emphasize the fact that every DPO must have the competency, must understand the whole rudiments, the whole activities involved from the very start to the end of privacy and data protection. So looking at your slides, I would like to make my first comment, Group 1. I didn't see anything about the NDPR or the Data Protection Act. You didn't give us live incidents. We have a lot of incidents in Nigeria that has brought about breaches, and come on, You didn't give us the provision, what the law requires. Why exactly? Why will you give us a very beautiful slide without any input from our legislation? I love everything about your slide, but I can't see anything about the NDPR. I can't see anything about the Data Protection Act. Nothing about it. No cases as well. Please, I want improvement. You did fantastic. You did very well. Fabulous. You did very well on your slides. But next time, bring in cases. Bring in life. Give us things that can draw our attention. Like when you were talking, Chinwe, when you were talking about social engineering. I remember back then when I was working in the UAE, and while I was working, all of a sudden I got an email from somebody. In fact, the email was showing the name of my CEO. But in fact, I couldn't check the last part because the last part was at gmail.com, not my company's address. Immediately I saw the email was like, can you arrange with the accounts department so that cash can be sent to me? I saw the email and I was wondering, this has never happened. Immediately I called him and I was like, this is the email I got. And immediately we're able to raise a fast incident response to this issue. This is actually an attempted breach. If I had responded to that email, if I had carried out the instruction on that email, then I have played a role as an insider for a breach to the company system. So I would like you to share examples, reality examples that can actually give you a better understanding of this data breach management. Now, let me go to group 2. Thank you very much, group 1. Kudos to you guys. And I want to see better slides with legislation next time. Kudos to you. So let me go to group 2. Group 2 presenter, what's your name, please?
Victor.
Okay, Mr. Victor, thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
On group 2, I would like to say that for you to have a perfect understanding of data breach management, charity begins at home. You must know how to protect your own data for you to be able to guide or be a DPO. So all those in group 2, can you unmute your mics? Let's discuss right now. Those in group 2, I want to see all of you unmute your mics. All right, I can see Stanley. I can see Timmy. Just 2 people in group 2? That's not possible. Okay. Stanley. Winner, which group do you belong to? Winner. Winner. Angel Isaac, which group do you belong to?
Good evening, sir. I belong to group 4, but I'm on zero that I did not want to open my mic then because I was called discussion today.
please next time unmute your mic when I give such instruction to your group, okay?
I'm so sorry, sir. I was just trying to rush it before, but we're already done with all the time.
All right.
Over to you now.
All right, noted. Those in group 2, I want you to all unmute your mics so that I will know those in group 2. Okay, Taiwo, I can see Taiwo, Stanley, Taiwo, and Olukunle. Okay, let me go to group 2. Now I would like to the presenter, please remind me your name, please. Remind me your name, presenter, please.
Victor.
Mr. Victor, thank you once again. And I would like you to always call it data, okay? Call it data at all time. I understand that we as Nigerians, our accent is data, but just be calling it data, so that we'll follow up with you, okay? Then, kudos to your wonderful presentation, but I would like to draw your attention to certain things. First of all, when you're trying to share your screen with us, we actually had access to some of your information in your phone. Those in group 2, did you notice that?
Yes, sir.
Very good. And that's an example of how data can leak. So while you were also presenting, we were seeing right at the top of your screen some WhatsApp messages that were coming in. And the numbers were also showing. That's another example on how data can leak. So an organization without proper data protection framework can easily give out can easily lose their whole element of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, either intentionally or unintentionally, whether either formally or informally. They can actually be vulnerable to attackers. In as much as the digital world is advancing to give us so much, that's how hackers and the darknet, they are also advancing their course in attacking. We have so much that we're supposed to do as individuals to protect our data, so that we can actually teach others that these are ways in which data can get compromised. So let's go to question time for group 2. Apart from Mr. Victor, tell us how yeah, I saw this. Sorry, let me just, okay. Tell us how data can be breached and the response plan that should be in place. Tell us who is answering. Just call your name first so that I will know who is talking, please.
Okay, my name is Stanley.
Stanley,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Data can actually be breached in many ways.
Okay.
In my group, we spoke about, we were kind of broad about it, because it's slides, so the presenter had to speak on them personally, like speak more about them, but like we just put we basically put two canopies, if I should call them that. So we said accidental disclosure and malicious attacks. So the accidental disclosure could be as a result of maybe someone working in a particular firm or office, and he mistakenly discloses an information or personal data to someone that should not have access to that data. There's that. And this could occur in many ways, actually. It could occur in the office, like maybe disclosing, because in some offices, there are grades, there are levels to these things, the offices specifically. And when maybe you have to get to a particular level to get access to some type of information. And if you are not up to that level and someone is showing you these data that you should not be seeing, that's disclosure. That's one. Or maybe someone has left his computer on and you're just passing by, and then you just sneak in and you're viewing this information. That's that. And then there's also the part where you could mistakenly show this data to someone that's what would I call them? A hacker, for example. And you show this person this thing mistakenly. Maybe you drop your file where you shouldn't drop it, or you keep your system at home and this person comes and just goes through the data. And there's also this part as well where maybe you could misplace your key card, for example, and someone picks it up and uses it to access your office and sees data that should not be seen by the person. So like I said, there's a lot to it. And then there's also the malicious attack. Now, this is where social engineering, phishing, and the rest of them come in. This is basically a hacker trying to, from somewhere, maybe using the Wi-Fi or getting the password to a person's laptop, or many different ways that hackers use to hack people's computers and try to get information. Or maybe oh, okay. Also, with accidental, sorry, one just came to my mind now. With accidental disclosure, it could be viewing, going to like an unprotected website, for example, and then giving a hacker access to your computer. So that's also accidental disclosure. So with malicious attacks, basically, it's just the hacker trying to penetrate someone's system and get information from the person, or get information from the person's system that he shouldn't see. So when this happen, there are a couple of plans that are put in place for these things, like to queue, or to, should I say, to cut the loss of the company that has been hacked or exposed to vulnerabilities. There are a couple of things you can do to like protect yourself. There are keeping yourself using like a playbook, for example, in connection with SIM tools. You could use there could be like, the company should at least have like a playbook in store for where maybe a person has been hacked, or when there is like an incident, then the company uses this playbook to try to deal with the issue strategically. So that's my...
Okay, thank you, Stanley. Another person, now we didn't talk about the possible response, but another person in group 2. Now we have actually seen possible things that can bring about data breach incidents. So another person in group 2, can you tell us what are those things that can happen to compromise data where there's a breach? Where there's a breach, what are those things that can happen to personal data? Another person in group 2, please. What are those possible things that can happen to personal data where there's a breach? Those in group 2, please give us feedback.
Good
Give us
afternoon,
answer. I
sir.
want to believe that you guys had an interactive
Hello,
time before
can
today.
you hear
Very
me?
good. Very good, Rama. Thank you.
Okay, when personal data is breached, it might be compromised in many ways. For example, financial data can be used to commit theft
Good.
and fraud against the data subject. There's also the risk of identity fraud
Excellent.
as
Good.
well.
Good.
It's keeping my mind now.
Very good.
Okay,
You're making you do is continue. Right on. Get it out, please. Very good. Very good, Rama.
okay, on social media as well, there can be cyberbullying, and there also risk of, for example, where somebody's physical address is leaked, they can be used to commit social crimes like kidnapping, robbery. Those are extreme, but they are possible.
Very good, Rama. Very good. Very good. Now I want to agree that group 2 actually had a great interactive time before now. So all in all, I would just say that wonderful presentation as well, but you guys did not include cases, Nigerian cases. I want to see things from I want to see your homegrown legislation applying them to this situation. Bring live cases, bring incidents so that we can relate. We can relate this whole thing from home. Yes, I appreciate the fact that you are bringing facts from GDPR, from Europe, from America, but we want to know what's happening within us as well. So all in all, wonderful performance, but I want to see better presentation and better slides in our next session. Thank you very much.
Allow me to jump in to the moderators just to pick up on the back of that and maybe give 1 or 2 points. So the first thing I think I would probably mention, just what all the other mentors have said, is my understanding is that most of us here are law students or law adjacent. So my first sort of piece of information would probably be, as a DPO or as a data privacy counsel or as a risk manager in the corporate space, one thing you're never going to get right is being able to fully investigate and remediate any personal data breach on your own. So ideally speaking, what you really, really want to do is to identify, 1, the personal data that you're protecting, and then 2, the stakeholders and the owners of that information. So in some cases, in practical sense, you may be quote unquote the business, but if you're acting as a DPO, you're technically an advisor. So you have no ability, you're not the controller themselves, you are an advisor to the controller, and the controller could be, maybe it's the head of HR who owns health records just stored in a certain platform. That person would be the controller. And so they would be responsible for saying, right, this is a serious breach. This is how long I think we should keep that information. And so you're acting in that advisory capacity. On the other side, there's also the aspect of the fact that our technical knowledge may be limited. Indeed, within an information security team, there'll be different sorts of roles. There'll be people who handle applications, some people who handle networks, and firewalls, access, etc. So it's really important to have those people as part of a data breach management committee, or that is convened whenever there's a breach, to decide what the appropriate action is. As a DPO or as a legal professional, your responsibility primarily will be, in the beginning, to look out for what the regulator says is a data breach. 2, to notify the individuals. if needed, to assess. Hello, sorry, Stanley, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, sorry. I forgot to unmute.
Oh, okay. 2, to notify the individuals. 3, to break down the risks to the business. And then 4, to notify the authority. Now, that piece is very important because not only would you be looking at a serious fine or sanction for the breach itself, but the failure to notify the authority within a specified period would also attract a very serious sort of sanction. The second piece, just very quickly, would be I wanted to talk about what you are looking at when we talk about sort of the after effects of a breach within an organization or an institution or an employer, because I imagine that would be the context. So during the presentation, you may be tempted to look at it as a data subject, which is, for instance, you yourself thinking what might happen if your personal data, say on Facebook, were to leak. But I'll break it down very quickly about what you look at when you're sitting on the other side of the fence. All those actions, say people losing customers or people being hacked, etc., fall into sort of 5 distinct categories of risk. And so you're looking at it from a risk-based approach. It would be criminal risk. So that's where you can incur a fine. Maybe there's also a subsequent infringement of the Computer Misuse Act, where that access to that information has resulted from a crime. So that's jail term, etc. The civil risk, which is sort of data subjects or customers coming together to sue you to say, look, we lost this amount of business because there was a data breach on your end, and so you are liable. There would be organizational risk, which would be a disruption to the activities of the business. Maybe, for instance, someone is unable to access the system that sends out payroll. So all payroll functions have to stop, which means that there's an organizational risk. Things cannot move forward within the organization, affecting, of course, the bottom line. There would be a reputational risk, right, which is what we're mostly conscious about. It's very likely that customers may leave, people may boycott your goods and services as a result of that personal data breach. And so those are the kind of things you sort of want to be looking at from a risk perspective. So any of those things happen falls into that bucket. So if you ever want to sort of mitigate and see how serious the risk is, look at it and say, what's the categories of risk we're hitting, and then work backwards. That's all, sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we can't really hear you.
This has been a really insightful and entertaining session. I would like to thank the 4 mentors that spoke on this topic today. Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello, can you
Yes,
hear me? Let me be sure
we can hear you.
I'm being heard.
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear
can
you.
you hear me? That's wonderful. Okay, so I want to apologize. My network is not good right now, but I'm just going to move on. So I would like to give my thanks to the four mentors that spoke and gave their feedback today. Mr. Matthew and Mr. Emmanuel, I thank you so much for the feedback you gave today. We really learned a lot, me and the mentees. It was such an insightful session because you broke down what they did and you gave them corrections. And even in some cases, you questioned them, and you questioned them on the subject matter of the topic. Okay, moving on to the next agenda we have for today. Please, I would like to ask everyone to put on their cameras because it's time for picture time. That will be much appreciated. It will take time. It's just going to be a simple screenshot from the organizer. So please, if you could put on your cameras, please. Thank you so much, Mr. Mati. Please, if you all could put on your cameras for the picture time, that would be very much appreciated. I would like to ask again for the others that their cameras are still switched off. I'm sorry, please, can we just
Okay, I think we can just go ahead. We've taken quite a number.
on our cameras?
Please, we can go ahead. We've taken quite a number. Hello, moderator. We've taken a number of pictures. You can go ahead.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So, moving on to the next agenda, our mentee, if you have any question at all from group 1 and group 2, if you have any question at all that you would like to ask the mentors, you are free now to ask a question. It's either you just unmute your mic and ask the question, or you can type it in the general chat and I can read it out for the mentors. So if any of the mentees, if you have any question regarding anything, everything we did today, everything regarding the topic, breach management, data breach management, please ask a question on that. It will be very much appreciated.
Good evening once again, everyone.
Give us like an opening space of like 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is too much. Okay,
Hello?
Okay, wonderful. Mr. Matthew, Rama Oyedeji asked you a question. He asked, please, can you elaborate on criminal risk? Are there any other questions? So that I can know
I have
if
a question.
we'll take it question by question, or if we'll just collect all the questions and they'll answer it at once. So if you have any other question, please put it forward so that in case we are collating any questions, we'll do it now. Make this easy and smooth going. So any other questions from the mentees, mentors, anything at all you want to ask them regarding data? In fact,
hello, I have a question.
From this session, and now you say, okay, I want to know more, I want to get a little more information, anything at all. You are free. The space is open for you to ask your questions. Anything. This is a learning space. We're all learning here. So just if you have something you want to ask, just ask it. I'll just give us a little more time. There are no questions. We'll move on to the question that Mr. Rama.
Hello.
I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it well, but Mr. Rama asked. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good evening once again. So,
okay, moving on. Okay, so Mr. Matthew, Mr. Rama asked you a question. He asked whether you could please elaborate on criminal risk. I will leave the floor to you now to answer the question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. I think Timmy had a question, so maybe you could ask that now.
Okay, thank you. Since we're treating a more technical aspect of data protection today, I would like to know, within an organization, is there a difference between the role of a data protection officer, for instance, and that of a cybersecurity analyst? Because I understand that the cybersecurity analyst deals more with the technical aspect. So can they be the same person, or they are just totally separate roles?
Okay. Anyone else? Great. I'll answer Rama's question because that's directly to me, and I'll attempt to answer Timmy's question. But I think one of the other mentors who I think has left, I don't know if Stanley is able to pick that up in detail. So the first response would be elaborate on criminal risks. Sure. Criminal risks essentially is anything that results in a jail sentence or a criminal fine. So where we're talking about laws, so say for instance in countries like Turkey or Bahrain, misuse of personal data gives you a jail sentence of 2 years or a fine, right? And so that is a criminal risk. So for instance, if you're working on an organization in Nigeria, where perhaps it's in the oil and gas industry, and you've also got personal data of individuals in Bahrain, or maybe you've got servers or an office there, it's very likely that the leadership or the controllers in your organization would want to be aware that if they messed up, for instance, personal data of those Bahrainian citizens, then it's very likely that the regulator in that country would be trying to get them locked up for 2 years. So that's an example of criminal risk. Another example would be if there's a gross criminal act. So say, for instance, a disgruntled employee breaks into the office at night and then steals confidential information from maybe a safe or that's been left in a cabinet to which they have access, it's very likely that the consequence of that, the cause of that data breach is a criminal act. And so there would be criminal risk attached to that data breach, okay? In response to the second question, as far as I know, it's very difficult for data protection specialists to become cybersecurity professionals, but not impossible, because you're talking about two different things. So one is super involved with the law, the policy, the governance, and the other one is involved in the technicalities, in conducting penetration testing, in carrying out cybersecurity audits, in looking at access controls to systems, in looking at phishing attempts, etc., etc. There is an overlap, but those, as far as I know, are two distinct roles. Though in my experience, I've seen quite a lot of cybersecurity professionals being able to be very effective data privacy officers and data privacy professionals. I've not seen it the other way around. Many times, data protection experts will be lawyers, international relations, business people, auditors, and cybersecurity professionals are people with a good at maybe software engineering, maybe computer engineering, those kinds of qualifications. Things in IT. That would be my take on the matter.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Matthew, for the answer to that question. I really hope that the people that asked the question understood and got what they needed from that. And I'm grateful for your answer. Okay, so finally, I would just like to retract and ask again that if there's anyone, wait, first of all, can
Sorry, can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right, so has the host sort of dropped off, or?
I think she was logged out.
Oh, I see. Could someone from the Gypsy side maybe take over to moderate?
I'm so sorry in case I cut off. My connection is very bad now. My connection is very, very bad. So I would just like to conclude this session. Since we've heard all I'm sorry for the noise too. Since we've heard all we needed to hear from the mentors and from the two groups, I would like to thank the mentors for their presence here today. We are all grateful for that. And I really hope that all the mentees have picked up and learned from what we did today. I apologize if there was any interruption. The data from my side is not really good. My network's not really good. I apologize for that. Okay, so we have reached the end of today's session. I really hope that you guys have a wonderful night and a great night as you sleep. Thank you so much. You can leave the call. Thank you.